Disinformation knows no borders, and today the stakes seem higher than ever. Welcome to Truth Talks, a brave new podcast series tackling the challenges of fake news and propaganda head-on. Join us for engaging short conversations with experts from all EU member states and Ukraine as we uncover the truth behind dominant disinformation trends and explore the strategies shaping Europe's fight against manipulation. In this episode, we are zooming in on Cyprus. Our guest today is Loukia Taxitari from the Neapolis University Pafos and Check Cyprus. Welcome to Truth Talks.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here with you today.
We are happy too, thank you. As a divided island with complex geopolitical realities, Cyprus faces unique challenges in the fight against disinformation. What are the dominant disinformation narratives circulating in Cyprus today?
Okay, so there are quite a few. So, as you said, because we have these particularities geopolitically, so we are at the southeastern part of the European Union, and we are at the entrance and very, very close to the Middle East. So we have thousands of asylum seekers arriving at the island every year. This is increasing year by year. So we have a lot of narratives around this issue about the numbers of asylum seekers, which are reported to be a lot higher than they actually are, where these people come from, what is their actual aim by entering the country. So there is this fear and worry against immigrants, asylum seekers, people who are supposed to be arriving at the country to change the demographic character of Cyprus and, alter the Greek Orthodox character of the Greek population on the island. So there is this big pressure about identity, and this is being challenged by the big numbers of asylum seekers. And here in Cyprus, we're very sensitive in this aspect because we are a divided island. So we've been divided since 1974. There are Turkish troops on the island, and we have the last divided capital of Europe as well, which is very unfortunate. So there is a lot of pressure and anxiety about our ethnic identity, the survival, these issues. And these are often surrounded by misinformation narratives like immigrants coming in to alter this character. There are misinformation narratives connected to how Turkey sends them in order to achieve this, and relevant issues to this topic. And then we have, of course, the Russia-Ukraine war. This is a big thing also here in Cyprus. But there is this particularity on the island. As we are an Orthodox community and country, we have very close ties to Russia. We've had these close ties for some decades now. We have a very big community here of both Russians and Ukrainians, actually. And we have received a lot of Ukrainians as part of the war as well. But there is a lot of Russian propaganda circulating on the island. So the various narratives that go around Europe are very prominent here in Cyprus as well. Things against Ukraine, Zelensky's wife. These are quite popular narratives, actually. The fact that in Russia as well, the claim that Ukrainians are dying in Ukraine as part of the war, but Zelensky's wife is leading a luxurious life, going shopping in London, buying expensive clothes and accessories, and in general paying a lot of attention to money and, material objects, when at the same time Ukrainians are dying in the country.
So what might be the aim of such disinformation? Is it to demobilize support for Ukraine?
Exactly.
And who might benefit from that?
So as I said, because we have a big Russian community, we have a lot of Russians on the island. There are financial ties, there are religious ties, there is a big community, and there is a lot of manipulation in political terms as well. People who support the Russian propaganda, especially just before the European elections, these narratives were more intense in order to lead the vote towards people who support Russians, the war, etc.
So you are saying that the disinformation landscape narratives mostly focus on the asylum seekers and this war of Russia against Ukraine, and the aim of the second one is basically to demobilize support. And what about the asylum seekers? I understand that it's about demography and also, but especially about cultural identity and safeguarding the
Ethnic identity,
identity
etc.
of
Yes.
yes, of the local community. So we were pointing at Russia with this topic of the war, but what about this anti-immigrant disinformation? Who does this type of narratives benefit?
So this is the far right, actually. Well, usually at the extremes of the political spectrum. So far righters exploit these narratives, again, in order to gain support. They're very warm and intense against these populations, these minority groups, and often they gain support in society among young people as well, which are easier to manipulate sometimes. So again, it's political gain exploited by the far right, usually.
And staying in this vein of narratives, major narratives, do you also find narratives concerning the European Union pushing green policies, for example, or too tolerant LGBTQ policies? Do you find these narratives as well?
Yes, so I was going to mention as a third narrative the LGBTQ community and issues related to the attack on the family values. Stuff like sexual education are all considered as part of this larger narrative, which aims to attack the traditional family values and harm society from its very core.
So I see it's a pan-European type of disinformation.
Exactly. And I would say that it stems again from the same part of the political spectrum. So the far right is the one initiating these claims, very specific people and groups.
And how effective is the far right? How vulnerable is the Cypriot society? And if you could tell us a little bit more about the build-up of the government at the moment, where is the far right there?
With the rest of Europe, I would say, we notice an increase in far right. So the corresponding political parties gaining a high percentage. In the last elections, it was around 7 or 8%, which is quite high for us. We also see, as I said before, gaining ground among young people. So there are youth groups that are being affected by it. And last year we had a very bad situation here in Limassol, where I live. So there was a build-up last summer, not summer 2024, but 2023. There was a build-up against immigrants, which was initiated by this political party, and it ended up in a march by people wearing headscarves, how do you call them? Yeah. And they ended up attacking property of immigrants, so shops of people that have been here for many years, people working and being part of the local community, actually, or part of the local community, but they received direct physical attacks and their property was destroyed. So it is gaining ground. The far right political party is affecting the local population. They are managing to manipulate them through such narratives. They do manage to get percentages in the government as well and participation.
Okay, so you mentioned Russia, Turkey, far right parties, that some of the disinformation narratives might benefit them somehow. But are there any proven links between who is active there and where disinformation comes from? Do you know for sure that there are some disturbers in terms of disinformation, spreading disinformation, creating disinformation, and or then spreading it, fanning it further?
So across Europe, regarding Russian disinformation, for example, we have some networks. Maybe you have heard of the Pravda network, which is a network spreading disinformation across Europe. There are Greek versions of it as well, and we know that several pieces of misinformation stem from there. Others from specific Telegram accounts, which can begin in Russian, then get translated into Greek and other languages as well. So these have been identified by fact checkers around Europe. It's not just specific on the island. So at least for the Russian misinformation, we know that it's happening. And we know that it is part of a larger propaganda scheme. Now, regarding immigrants, we find again a repetitive effort from specific sources. We haven't identified them formally, but as we have our fact check Cyprus Center here in on the island, we've been doing work, intense work for 2-3 years now. And again, we have identified such accounts which initiate and spread and are prominent in these disinformation narratives.
Now, I would like to, in a way, come back to the narratives because I would like to ask you about the most widespread fake news in circulation at present in Cyprus. Is there anything really the most striking?
I would say that the major narratives circulating now in Cyprus are related to the US government, so the President Trump and Elon Musk, and how the US government has funded research related to COVID, and that USAID was the one who actually funded the creation of the COVID, and then it spread around the world. So it seems that the people who have been very, maybe not so mainstream up to now concerning these misinformation narratives have suddenly become mainstream due to the election of Trump and Elon Musk. And so these narratives that were not so prominent before, they start to become more and more prominent because now they have support in the United States. And we see this in terms of actual attacks towards fact checkers as well, mainly online attacks. But it seems that people who support misinformation have been, justified by the US government and by their reaction towards fact-checking and all this effort that we have been making for the past years.
Okay, so the US is offering legitimization for pro-disinformation activities.
So they are reviving and they're becoming more intense.
Fascinating, but sadly, I think it's also what's happening more universally. And this brings me to penultimate question. How would you define the specificity, any unique characteristic of this information landscape that is specific only to Cyprus? Do you see anything like this?
Something very specific only to the island, you mean?
Because as we are talking, most of the topics are so universal, so general. That's
Exactly.
fascinating. Globalization of
So
disinformation, but anything unique.
exactly. So technology is like so efficient in transferring disinformation everywhere in just seconds. So we see similar narratives as the rest of Europe and the rest of the world, actually. And a lot of them we borrow from Greece as well because they start there in the Greek language and immediately they get transferred to Cyprus. So I wouldn't say there's something very specific, but maybe the issue of the immigrants is more intense here because it has its own special characteristics. So too many people entering. We are a small country. So we're less than 1 million. And all these refugees who come to Cyprus, they have their own parts of the narrative. So there are claims that there are a lot more than they actually are, that we give them money, that Cypriot citizens don't get. So such things that, they're trying to change our ethnic identity. So I guess it is more intense in some respects due to our position. I don't think there is something that is really specific to Cyprus.
Are these refugees mostly of a certain national descent or religious descent? Because, for example, in Poland, when we were about to receive refugee quotas of 7,000 in 2015-16, they were supposed to come from mainly countries like Syria. So they would be the Muslim country refugees. And this became problematic in itself. Is it the same case in Cyprus?
Yes, exactly the same. So mainly they come from Syria. And we have some people from African countries as well, but in their vast majority, they are Muslims. As I said before, the Greek Cypriot community is Greek Orthodox, the religion. So this is perceived as a big threat.
Despite you have a Muslim part of the island, the second part of the island, yes?
That's correct. But as I said before, we've been divided since 1974, and there is a green line and a ceasefire line. Yes. So some people, they have regular contact with the north, but there are people who have never been in touch with Turkish Cypriots, who have never seen them in their lives. So the two communities are actually apart. There is a continuing division that keeps the two apart, so we don't mingle. There is some communication and some contact, but it's not to the extent that the two communities live together in peace and they don't consider each other as a threat. There is still suspicion between them.
I see. So finally, maybe we'll find something constructive and or optimistic about the disinformation discussion. What's being done to counter disinformation in Cyprus, and
Okay.
what more would you recommend?
There's always more to be done. So as I said before, we've established our Check Cyprus Center against misinformation at the Social Computing Research Unit in the Cyprus University of Technology. That was done in November 2023. So a group of us are working in actual fact-checking, and we debunk false claims in the internet and around the media regularly. At the same time, though, we are very eager to take part and initiate media literacy activities. So we go to schools, we give talks, seminars to journalists, students, educators, and we try as much as possible to offer some media literacy skills to the people. Cyprus is very low in this respect in the European index, so we want to reinforce this more. We are in touch with the government as well, and we're trying to take up some new initiatives and show them the reason behind why people need media literacy skills, not just as a side activity, but as an actual skill as part of education, formal education, because technology is nowadays everywhere. So we need to equip people of all ages with the appropriate skills in order to be able to identify themselves if something is not true.
I wish you a lot of success in this important endeavor. And that brings us to the end of our conversation about the Cypriot disinformation landscape. Loukia, thank you for sharing your valuable insights.
Thank you very much, and good luck with your own work as well.
Truth Talk series is part of the project Guardians of Truth, fact-checking during Poland's EU presidency, which is supported by European Media and Information Fund, managed by Calouste Gulbenkian Foundation.